we discovered the MuddyWater threat actor is using an Android Trojan.
So Stan, tell us about MuddyWater. I find the name interesting, and you had a great caption. It's about blending in the crowd.
Yes, well, I can't claim credit for the caption. That one actually came from Kaspersky, I think. But basically, it's targeting the Middle East, and I think the adversary is also in the Middle East. I guess the name they've been given is MuddyWater. Not sure exactly why, but this article is great. It describes the different techniques that they use and the different Trojans they use to access, I guess, the victims that they have. So the target victim set for this adversary are like telcos and government agencies. And the types of rats or Trojans or viruses that they use are actually very open source. They're kind of like all out there. So they don't really develop their own. They kind of rely on things that are out there. One thing that they talked about is different false flags that are in there to trick you to think that it's some other adversary. So they actually try to pretend to be somebody else, like some other hacking group. And even they put in this false flag, which kind of resonated with me. One of the passwords that they use in their campaign is like a Russian word or a Russian phrase. But what's interesting about this false flag, you could tell it's a false flag. If you were Russian, you wouldn't spell these words this way.
Okay.
At least not with English letters. So their false flag didn't work on me. So I took a couple of these indicators and I started running them through VirusTotal. And one of the indicators, a specific IP address, I found something interesting about it. So when I plug it into VirusTotal, it kind of told me, hey, there's these viruses that use this IP address, or these Trojans, or these rats. And one of them was a Windows executable, just like it was described in the Kaspersky article. But another was an Android Trojan, which was not at all described in the Kaspersky article. And I thought that was interesting. Here's these two malware samples used by the same adversary, but kind of different. So maybe we're onto something here. Maybe we found something unique that maybe nobody knows about yet. So whenever I find that, I like to look for patterns. And I was looking at like, what is this Android Trojan? So I actually popped it open. I reverse engineered it. And there's even research going back to like 2016 by different security researchers that describe this this pack, this packer for creating this malware.
It's changing its tactics a little bit, like reinventing what is already there, making a few modifications, and still trying to make an impact without having to put the effort to create the malware all over again. When a malware kit is out there, it's usually modified. Nobody starts from scratch each time they want to attack you. And we say this to a lot of our customers that come to us for security advice, right? So you'll have to keep on top of this, because the person that is looking to attack you, and this is truly a global problem. We see here that it's not just the US that is exposed to it or the West that is exposed to it. In the Middle East, when we see things like this, it's almost like the gift that keeps on giving for the person who actually wrote that initial build, right? Yes. What do you think, Tom?
I think it's really fascinating, the aspects of it potentially being a single operator inside this larger MuddyWater group that maybe is using it for personal gain, or maybe it's the group operations that are involving this tool set. It's a pretty interesting trend. And I think a lot of the false flags you mentioned, such as the language and just the various strings they use throughout their tool sets, it kind of tells you a lot about the group. And you start to include a little bit of the recent leaks of the tool sets for these associated groups for that region. And you start to kind of come along with some interesting operational objectives from this group and potentially leaking stuff on purpose. So yeah, it's a fascinating find.
Don't think that this won't happen to you. If you're using a device and if you're connecting, then you need to know that there's something out there for somebody to take from you, whether it is your bandwidth, whether it is your data, or whether it is your device itself that can be an entry point into something bigger.